good day, viewers at home. You're welcome once again to your favorite channel, Writing Theatre. My name is Kingsley Ogbons. I'm your host for today. And with me here is
Chinyere Nwachukwu. You're welcome to the program.
Writing Theatre is a channel that affords us the opportunity to learn about writing and how it benefits the society. Before we let the cat out of the bag, we'll go for a short break. Welcome back once again. With us here is a guest, a special guest. He is a lecturer with the Nigerian Institute of Journalism. He's a communication consultant, a public affairs analyst, and presently he's the director of special programs at the Nigerian Institute of Journalism. Please let me introduce you to Dr. Jide Johnson.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you and with our viewers all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Sir, to kickstart this program, I would like to ask what the difference is between an advertorial and an editorial.
Well, first and foremost, we need to establish the relationship between advertising and mainstream journalism. When I talk about mainstream journalism, I'm talking about the core of journalism, that's reporting for newspaper, magazine, and TV and radio. It's important to underscore the centrality of advertising to the survival of journalism. It plays a critical role. Apart from in actual sense, the bulk of funding you have for media organizations come from money that are sourced through advertising and promotion, and not from the circulation of the newspaper or even the TV station, with the exception of cable TV. Where the revenue comes from? The revenue, you don't pay radio and TV subscription, you only pay subscription to. So basically, advertising is critical to the sustenance and survival of media organizations. Now, coming to the question you asked, that what's the difference between advertorial and editorial? Now, editorial is the official position of a media organization, particularly print organization, stating the policy direction and the position that the media organization as a whole has taken concerning an issue. Let's take the issue of the redesign of Naira. A newspaper organization can take a position in terms of editorial, and then for broadcast organization, they can take a position which is their news analysis or news commentary. What we call editorial in print media organization is what we call news analysis or news commentary in broadcast organization. Now, or what you have as an opening monologue in a magazine program, on TV, on radio. So you take a position that this is the standpoint of our organization with respect to an issue. It could be a policy, it could be a program, either by government or non-governmental institutions. With respect, you know that during COVID-19, for example, a lot of media organizations took a position that encouraging people to take vaccination, to support the idea of people sheltering in place and the rest of it. Now, advertorial, on the other hand, is an advert in form of an editorial. That's the word, is advert in form of editorial. You know, advert is paid for by an identified sponsor that has a specific purpose or goal to achieve, and it has a specific target that he wants to disseminate his message to. So an advertorial is paid for. It's a paid form of editorial. However, it supports the commercial interest of an organization or institution that is an advertiser in a platform. For example, Coca-Cola can put an advertorial in all the newspaper with respect to probably consumption of sugar or non-consumption of sugar or consumption of non-alcoholic beverages or not. So it is paid for, but it comes in form of editorial format because it uses rather than use, we communicate through signs and symbols and words. Rather than use signs and symbols, they use just pure words, which is the position of an advertiser concerning an issue. So that's the difference. I hope I've been able to clarify so that viewers at home can understand. So editorial is the position of a media organization concerning an issue. Advertorial is the position of an organization with commercial interest using the platform of the media to share such messages.
So we would want to understand, in relation to what our viewers have always been curious to know, if there is a relationship between writing and advertising.
Well, there are what I call professions in the creative industry. Writing is the expression of your thoughts and ideas about a given subject, people, or interest. And so we've seen people have written about so many. We've written about nature, we've written about human beings, we've written about products, we've written about brands. The writing has to do with creativity. Same thing with advertising. Advertising, in actual sense, is simply defined as creative writing. Creative writing that emphasizes the salient attributes of a product or brand which distinguishes it from competitive offering. Now, the fundamental of advertising is scripting. You can't, for example, develop an advertising message without a script. So writing is the basis of advertising. For example, you want to develop an advert, let's say for any of the presidential candidate. You must have an understanding of their history, their background, and then you must have a team that you want to base that. Don't forget, advertising is a paid messaging. While you write for readers, you design advertisement for audience. So they are synonymous and they are interrelated. In actual sense, the person that developed the core component part of the advert is what we call the copywriter. The verbalized part is what we call the copywriter. So there can't be advertising without a copywriter. Are you getting my point? So which emphasizes the importance of writing to advertising.
All right, sir. Well said. I want to take this one. People oftentimes have been classifying public relations as modern day propaganda. What do you think?
Well, it's because people don't have an understanding of what propaganda is in the first instance. What is propaganda? Propaganda is a one-sided communication. Propaganda is an advocacy for your viewpoint. Now, for example, I can tell you that editorial is propaganda. For a fact, because the media organization has taken a position. Now, the word propaganda is for an agenda. Pro. The word pro in English language, if you look at the etymology of word, the word pro means for For example, pronoun means for now, something you use in place of now. So when people talk, it's because people don't have the depth of understanding and knowledge of what propaganda is. It's one-sided communication. It's advocating your own viewpoint while ignoring the viewpoint of others. And why should I, if, for example, there are two rivals contesting for a position, let's say political office, why should I be talking about my opponent? It's about advocating the strength. It's highlighting your own strength. It's highlighting your own point of view and your own point of view as the ultimate world view of the issue. So when is the misconception that people have with respect to what propaganda is, when government come up with policy programs, they design communication program to support. So propaganda is a supportive communication program for the source intention. So when we begin to question the utility, whether you can use it for good or for bad, which communication technique or strategy
Will be better.
that have you seen that has not been used for good or for bad? Have they used advertising for good and for bad? Have they used editorial for good and for bad? Yesterday I was reading the way the media organization cast the headline when the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal ruled on the application of AA, the first petition that was brought. Now, one media organization said the tribunal dismissed the petition, while another media organization said, Daily Trust said the tribunal dismissed the petition, while channels said that AA withdrew the petition. The actual is a function of narrative.
Exactly.
Now, and I'm sure if you're a student of language, you'll have learned about narrative. Narrative is about perspective which you give to a story. So now, propaganda is giving your own perspective to the story. Which God is God? Let me put this in. Which God is God? Is it God of the Bible? Or is it God of the Quran? Or is it God of the traditional rulers? And the interesting thing is that God said he's the God of the universe. That's what I understand. God does not make his rain to fall
On Muslims.
Muslim alone, or it does not distinguish between. But if you listen to the propagation, the word propaganda is from the word propagate, to state. Now, if you listen to the propagation of the adherents of Islam, they will say Allah is the greatest. If you listen to Christian, they will say Jesus is the greatest. If you listen to the African traditional ruler, they will say, so each and every one of them is propagating his view. So propaganda is a strategic communication technique you use to highlight your own worldview.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we've had a very interesting discussion, but before we finally round up, this year 2023 was graced with the elections. So we would want to get your view on how, like this, we've just talked about propaganda now and how it's used to advance interest. And we've seen democracy coming in the year 1999, and till date, Nigeria still practices democracy. So now we want to know, for the benefit of viewers at home, how has public relations and advertising helped to advance the interests of political parties and even down to the aspirants? How have they used it to their benefits?
One, partisan politics does not guarantee democracy. The fact that we conduct election and people use election to gain access to political power does not make a society to be a democratic society. There are a lot of factors that you have to put into consideration. A well-oiled party system, independent judiciary, free press, free and fair election, a vibrant intellectual community, an organized civil society, fundamental human rights, adherence to the principle of rule of law. So when you use all of these as indices to measure, and which I have said over time, Nigeria is not a democracy, Nigeria is a civilian administration. Because if you use that as a yardstick to measure the various indicators to show whether how democratic a society is, you see that we are still far from being a democratic society. However, we are on a journey. Hopefully we'll get there. Well, democracy, particularly representative democracy, is not possible without the media. One, because democracy is highly dependent on the media. We say democracy and the media are Siamese twins. Because we said in democracy, majority will have their way, minority will have their say. That talks about the democratic space. The democratic space is about giving opportunity to everybody to ventilate his or her own opinion or views. So it's a free marketplace of ideas whereby everybody will share the ideas. Now in partisan politics, which is based on ideology, but you know the Nigerian political system is not based on any ideology. There's competition among ideology. Ideology in the sense that in terms of policy trust, in terms of the programs which you want to do. And in that marketplace of ideas, you need to promote and project your ideology. That's where advertising, public relation comes in. However, advertising and public relation are professions that are highly dependent on the media. It is the media that provides platform. In actual sense, we say they are adjunct professions for the media, and that's why some scholars have argued that 80% of the news stories you see in the newspaper comes from the desk of PR practitioners in both government and non-governmental organizations, commercial and non-commercial organizations. You can go and do your study, and at the same time, the media organization cannot survive without input from the advertising industry, revenues that come from advertisement. That's why you always go on commercial break, even though you deny the importance of advertising. So, if you understand that the principle of democracy was based on the principle of free marketplace of ideas, where everybody will come, will state his view, will state his program, will state his policies, and freely and willingly, people will make a choice. So you understand the critical role that public relation and advertising has played. And then, if you bring it to 2023 election, I can tell you the way, if I say obedient, you see that through various communication campaigns, some thematic names have been developed for the gladiators. Obedient, Baptist, or Bulaba, articulate. Are you getting? Yes, articulate, Mikano boys. Yes. Are you getting about? When you talk about Mikano boys, you know who they are talking about. When you talk about Agbado boys, Agbadorians. So it is the role that public relation and advertising has played to highlight that. So if I talk about Renew Hope, if I talk about Unifier, if I talk about Renew Hope, you know I'm talking about Asiwaju. If I talk about Unifier, you know I'm talking about Atiku. Now if I talk about It Is Possible, you know I'm talking about Peter Obi. So that tells you the central role that public relation and advertising plays in democratic society. And you know what? Democracy is very, very expensive. Look at the amount of money the federal government spent with INEC conducting that election. Now, if you look at the amount of money the candidates across board spent for that election, you'll be shocked. And that's why, if you look at the amount of money that they spent to win the presidency in America, it runs into billions of dollars. Is it worth it? Some have asked the question, is it worth it? Because the same thing they campaigned for 4 years ago, the same thing they will campaign for now, and it's the same thing they will campaign for 8 years later. Are you getting my point? So, but the way we package Coca-Cola, the way we package products, goods and services, is the same way they package candidates.
All right, viewers, I hope you've had a field day enjoying our program. Until we come your way again, here is saying thank you to our wonderful guest that has given life to our topic. We'll see you again. My name is Chinyere, Nwachukwu.
Kingsley, Ogbons, we want you to remember that this is writing theatre. Thank you for joining us.